In 2 days, voters in East Timor will go to the polls for the country's third presidential election. José Ramos Horta is seeking another 5-year term, but he's up against a strong field, which includes a high-profile former chief of the army. East Timor has 2 major elections this year, the presidential race and, in 3 months, the parliamentary poll. It's a crucial time. The country has to show it can run its own affairs, with the United Nations mission and Australian-led peacekeepers set to withdraw at the end of the year. Sarah Everingham reports from Dili.
In the hills to the southwest of Dili, 25-year-old Amaro de Conceição Sarsinha and his extended family try to make a living growing coffee. It's East Timor's biggest export after oil and gas, and thousands depend on it. But some farmers expect to be paid only 30 cents for a kilogram of their unroasted beans, and that's in a good year.
It's hard because the prices go up and down depending on the year.
But with a presidential election just days away, this farmer says his biggest worry is not his coffee harvest. East Timor's been relatively peaceful in recent years, but there are fears the trouble might return.
Yes, we do really worry about security because for a long time we hear that something will happen at the election.
Today, the incumbent, President José Ramos Horta, is visiting this region as part of what's shaping up for him as a tough campaign for re-election. He's not considered the favourite. While today the mood is one of celebration, José Ramos Horta knows in this election there's much at stake.
It is a test for East Timorese democracy, a test for the maturity, sense of responsibility of the leaders. So if it goes well, smoothly, then I think we have turned the corner. That Timor-Leste finally can claim to have a stable, predictable democracy.
This region where José Ramos Horta is campaigning today is a reminder of the country's troubled past. It was an important base for the late rebel leader Alfredo Renato, who in 2006 led a group of troops in a mutiny against the government.
I've inherited quite a bit of the support from the youths, from the late Alfredo Renato, but I think I have an immense support from the women, and that includes young and old.
Campaigning against José Ramos Horta for president is the former partner of Alfredo Renato, Angelita Pires, who in 2009 was acquitted of plotting to murder José Ramos Horta. She says old tensions that split the country in two have been replaced by new divisions.
I think they've realised that the biggest discrimination is not between East and West, but in fact a small group that's very, very rich, and the majority of the country, 1 million people over, that are very, very poor.
She says she's been treated unfairly in East Timor, but has now moved on and is campaigning for universal access to justice and other basic services.
Discrimination in terms of access to justice, access to good quality education, health services, it just goes on and on.
In a show of confidence that this country's left violence behind, today the president's campaigning in his personal car. But this election has not been without problems. The Electoral Commission was recently petrol-bombed, and one candidate says one of his supporters ended up in hospital after being hit with stones by followers of a rival candidate. East Timor's local police force says it's ready to handle security in this election.
In the election on the 17th of March, this 2 days or 3 days most coming, I believe that the election will be going smoothly and peaceful in that time.
This week, there's no doubt Dili's in election mode, but the streets are much calmer than in 2007 when voters last went to the polls. Then thousands of internally displaced people were living in makeshift camps in the capital. But there are warnings that whoever wins government will have to tackle the high rate of youth unemployment, which in the past has helped create a breeding ground for unrest.
Of course, when it comes to youth unemployment is a sign of potential instability in any country, and the Timorese government's well aware of that.
Coffee grower Amaro de Conceição Sarsinha says he's one of the lucky ones. He can pick up work as a carpenter, but many young people around him don't have jobs.
During this time, I already see many young people walking the street without any job, and my hope is that if any leader becomes president in this election, my message is please bring the jobs for us.
The frontrunner in this election appears to be the former military chief Taumata Ruak, who's running with the backing of Prime Minister Xanana Gusmao. But José Ramos Horta says he's not concerned.
I have pledged to stand behind whoever is elected so that he or she who is elected feel the country behind him or her.
This year, East Timor marks 10 years since formal independence from Indonesia. Amaro de Conceição Senior is hopeful the promise of independence can be achieved.
Yes, I have hopes that Timor will become a good nation. We cannot suffer again.
Sarah Everingham reporting from East Timor.